Imagine a color, not just blue, not just turquoise. Imagine a spectrum for which human language barely has enough names. From a blinding, almost white cyan in the shallows to a deep, terrifying indigo in the ocean's abyss. This is the first thing that strikes you when the plane begins its descent. This is Bora Bora, the pearl of the Pacific, the most beautiful island in the world according to millions, the ultimate dream for honeymooners, a synonym for paradise. We are used to seeing this island on glossy postcards, the thatched roofs of bungalows standing directly over the water, bronzed bodies, crystal flutes of champagne, and the perfect silhouette of Mount Otomanu piercing the clouds. It seems as though time here has frozen in an eternal, happy afternoon. But behind this facade of the perfect image lies a history full of drama, ancient magic, military operations, and ecological challenges. Bora Bora is not just a resort. It is a dying volcano, slowly drowning in the ocean. It is a place where ancient Polynesian kings declared wars, where American cannons from World War II still rust in the jungle, and where the luxury of five-star hotels sits side by side with the real lives of islanders. Lives that are never mentioned in travel brochures. Today we travel to where the map ends to uncover the authentic story of Earth's most famous island. To understand Bora Bora, we must rewind time, not by 100 nor 1,000 years, but 4 million years. What we see now are effectively ruins, majestic, beautiful, but the ruins of a gigantic geological catastrophe. Bora Bora is a textbook example of what Charles Darwin called the theory of atoll formation. Once, a massive volcano raged here. It rose from the ocean floor, spewing lava, creating new land. But the moment volcanic activity ceased, an irreversible process began. Under its own immense weight, the heavy mountain began to slowly settle back into the Earth's crust. Simultaneously, in the warm waters surrounding the island, corals began to grow. They reached for the sun, layer upon layer. It is a race that has lasted for millions of years. The volcano sinks, and the coral reef grows upward. And this is what we have today. The central island, with its famous peaks, Otomanu and Pahia, are the remains of that volcano's throat, and the ring of small islets around it, known here as Motu, is the coral reef that survived. Between them lies the lagoon, the very lagoon for which people fly across the globe. It is a perfect natural swimming pool, protected from the fury of the Pacific Ocean by the wall of the reef, Mount Otomanu, towering at 727 meters, looks impregnable. Its black basalt finger seems eternal, but geologists tell us the truth. Bora Bora is dying. Slowly, at a rate of a few centimeters per century, the island is submerging. In a few million years, the central mountain will vanish entirely, leaving only a ring of sand, a classic atoll, like those in the Maldives. We are living in a unique moment in time where we can witness both the power of the mountain and the tranquility of the lagoon simultaneously. Long before geologists and tourists, this island was discovered by the greatest navigators in human history, the Polynesians. Imagine their journey. On wooden double-hulled canoes, without compasses or maps, guided only by the stars, ocean currents, and the flight paths of birds, They crossed the world's largest desert, the Pacific Ocean. They arrived here around the 4th century AD, and they gave this place a name. In ancient chants, the island was called Vava'u, but later the name Bora Bora took hold, which in the Tahitian dialect means firstborn. Legends say that the supreme god Ta'aroa created this island immediately after creating the main island of Raiatea. The ancient history of Bora Bora is not a fairy tale of noble savages. It is Game of Thrones in a Pacific setting. The islanders of Bora Bora were renowned as the fiercest warriors of the Society Islands. They didn't just defend their lands, they launched raids on neighboring islands, inspiring terror. Society was rigidly caste-based. At the top were the Ari'i, chiefs whose power was considered divine. They were surrounded by the concept of mana, spiritual power, and tapu, sacred restrictions from which we get our word taboo. Hidden in the island's jungles are traces of that era, marae. These are stone platforms, open-air temples. The most famous is Marae Whareopu on the shores of Whanui Bay. Here, chiefs were crowned and sacrifices were made to the gods of the ocean and the war. If you approach these stones today, you can spot petroglyphs carved into some of them. Turtles, sacred animals to the Polynesians. For the locals, these stones still possess power. Tourists are advised to treat them with respect. Do not step on them. Do not move them. It is said that the spirits of ancestors jealously guard their domains. Europeans struggled to find this speck of land. The Dutchman, Jacob Roggeveen, was the first to sight it in 1722, but he sailed past. It wasn't until 1777 that the famous Captain James Cook landed on Bora Bora. He saw proud, independent people. But, as everywhere in the Pacific, contact with Europe marked the beginning of the end for the Old World. Following the explorers came whalers, traders, and most crucially, missionaries. In 1820, the London Missionary Society began its work. The changes were rapid and brutal toward the culture. Ancient temples were abandoned or destroyed. Traditional dances, deemed too erotic, were banned. Tattoos, a Polynesian's most important passport detailing their lineage and status, were declared devilish marks. Instead of loincloths, women were dressed in shapeless Mother Hubbard dresses to hide their figures. The island became part of French territories in the late 19th century when the Queen of Bora Bora, Terimaevarua III, was forced to abdicate. Thus, the firstborn became a colony, a distant province at the edge of the world, rarely thought of in Europe, until the entire world was engulfed in the flames of the Second World War. It is a paradox, but the modern tourist paradise of Bora Bora was built by the US military. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States urgently needed a supply base in the South Pacific to halt the advance of the Japanese Empire. The choice fell on Bora Bora. The operation was codenamed Bobcat. In early 1942, the quiet life of the island, home to only about 1,200 people, was shattered by the roar of engines. Massive gray ships approached the shore. Over 5,000 American soldiers, engineers, and sailors landed. Imagine the cultural shock. The island's population instantly multiplied by 5. The Americans turned the island into a fortress. They installed massive 7-inch coastal guns on strategic heights to fire upon Japanese ships. The most amazing part, these cannons are still there. If you hire a Jeep Safari, a guide will take you up a washed-out trail, and you will see these rusting barrels aiming at the horizon. They never fired a single shot in anger. The war bypassed Bora Bora. The Japanese never reached these shores, but the Americans did something more important than installing guns. They built an airstrip on Motu Mute. It was a titanic effort, leveling the coral ground, laying the tarmac. This strip became the first international airport in all of French Polynesia. For a long time, even after the war, the only way to get to Tahiti was via Bora Bora. The presence of 5,000 young American men forever changed the gene pool and culture of the island. When the army left in 1946, they left behind not only roads, electricity, and a water system, but also hundreds of mixed-race children and the legend of a paradise island that soldiers took home. It was the veterans of Operation Bobcat telling their families about the incredible lagoon who created the first myth of Bora Bora as a place one must inevitably return to. After the war, the island fell into a slumber, but not for long. In 1961, the first hotel opened, Hotel Bora Bora. But the real revolution happened later, and it was born of necessity. In the 1960s, a group of friends from California, known as the Bali High Boys, managed hotels on neighboring islands. On the island of Raiatea, they had a problem. There were no good sandy beaches. The shore was rocky and uninviting. How could they attract tourists? And then, one of them had a crazy idea. If guests can't walk into the water from the shore, why not house them right over the water? They drove concrete pilings into the lagoon floor and built huts on top of them. To enhance the effect, they cut a piece of plexiglass into the floor, lighting the water from below. Thus, the overwater bungalow was born. This invention changed the luxury tourism industry forever. Bora Bora, with its perfect, calm, shallow lagoon, became the ideal testing ground for this technology. Today, these stilt houses are the island's signature. In top-tier hotels like the Four Seasons or St. Regis, these villas are veritable palaces. Glass floors have turned into massive viewing panels where you can watch stingrays while sipping your morning coffee. Some villas even have their own pools, suspended above the lagoon pool. This is the apotheosis of hedonism. The cost of a night here can easily exceed the annual budget of an average family in developing nations. This cemented Bora Bora's reputation as a resort for the elite, a playground for Hollywood stars and oil tycoons. But the island's true wealth is not the gold fixtures in hotel bathrooms, but the living gold of the lagoon. The ecosystem of Bora Bora is unique. The water here refreshes thanks to a single break in the reef, the Tivanui Pass. It is through here that the ocean's giants enter the lagoon. Diving here feels like stepping into a cartoon. The main stars of the show are the rays and sharks. Huge manta rays, graceful giants with wingspans of up to 4 or 5 meters, glide through the water alongside smaller, bolder stingrays. They are accustomed to humans. Local guides have been feeding them for decades, and now the rays surround boats the moment they hear the engine hum. This sparks debate among ecologists. On one hand, it disrupts natural animal behavior. On the other, it allows people to fall in love with the ocean and want to protect it. Blacktip reef sharks are everywhere. To humans, they are practically harmless, if not provoked. Swimming in a pack of 20 sharks is a standard Tuesday for a tourist on Bora Bora. Further out, beyond the outer reef in the open ocean, live the lemon sharks, more serious predators. However, this underwater paradise is fragile. Global warming and rising ocean acidity are killing the corals. Periodically, there are outbreaks of the crown of thorns, a starfish that devours reefs, leaving behind white skeletons. Hotels and local activists are creating coral gardens, artificially growing polyps on underwater grids to replant them on the seabed. It is a desperate attempt to save the beauty that feeds the entire island. Every coin has two sides. A documentary would not be honest if we didn't show life beyond the walls of the five-star resorts. About 10,000 people live on the island permanently. Most reside in a narrow coastal strip on the main island, around Vitape, the only town and port. Life on the most beautiful island is incredibly expensive. Practically everything, from fuel to milk, is imported by sea. Supermarket prices shock even wealthy tourists. But for locals, this is everyday reality. Many residents are forced to work 2 or 3 jobs, servicing the hotels just to make ends meet. There is a fresh water issue. Hotels have powerful desalination plants, but the village water supply often experiences shortages. Waste management is another headache. On a tiny island, there is simply nowhere to put a landfill. Trash must be shipped out, which costs a fortune, or burned, which poisons the pristine air. But despite this, the spirit of Fi'ou, a specific Polynesian state of mind where you rush nowhere and enjoy the moment, is alive here. The locals are incredibly musical. In the evenings, when the ferries with tourists depart, you can hear the strumming of ukuleles and the beat of tuera drums at the Vaitape wharf. Tahitian dance is not just a show for guests. It is a way to preserve identity. The famous Haiva Festival gathers the best dance troupes, and the passion with which they perform proves that Polynesian culture is alive. It hasn't dissolved in the cocktails of hotel bars. You cannot speak of Bora Bora without mentioning 2 cultural phenomena: pearls and tattoos. French Polynesia is the birthplace of the black pearl. It is cultivated inside the Pintada margaritifera oyster. Interestingly, there are almost no pearl farms left on Bora Bora itself. The lagoon water is too warm and too busy with boat traffic. Pearls are brought in from neighboring atolls but sold here. A perfect pearl must be spherical, flawless, and possess orient, a deep luster. Colors range from silver to green, purple, and charcoal black. The second symbol is the tattoo. The very word tattoo entered European languages from here. Tahitian, tatau. In ancient times, applying patterns was a sacred ritual, painful and long, using bone combs. Today, artists use machines, but the meaning remains. A Polynesian tattoo is not just a picture. It is a biography etched onto the skin. Tigi patterns, ocean waves, shark teeth. Every element holds a meaning of protection, strength, or ancestral memory. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, Bora Bora transforms. The water shifts color from turquoise to liquid gold, and then to violet velvet. The silhouette of Mount Otomanu becomes black, graphic, mystical. In this moment, it is easy to understand why ancient people believed gods lived here. Bora Bora is a place of contrasts. It is a geophysical miracle, a volcano within a ring of coral. It is a historical crossroads where canoes met aircraft carriers. It is a showcase of human vanity, with villas costing thousands of dollars, and simultaneously home to simple, smiling people who fish just as their ancestors did 1,000 years ago. Is this island worth its fame? Undoubtedly. But when you come here, it is important to see more than just the Instagram picture. It is important to see the scars on the rocks, to feel the breath of the ocean that will one day reclaim this island into its depths. But until that happens, Bora Bora remains perhaps the most beautiful stage set for the play called Life on Earth. Leaving the island, you will likely throw a tiara flower lei into the water. A local legend says, if the lei floats back toward the shore, you will surely return. And even if you are a pragmatist, in that moment, watching the mountain fade into the distance, you will pray to all the Polynesian gods that the current catches your flowers and carries them back to the white sands of Bora Bora.